All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is David Shug. I direct the National International Scholarships Program here with my wonderful colleague you just heard from, Rochelle. We're both going to be talking with you about the Fulbright program and applying from the University of Illinois. A little bit of background on us, real brief. I've been working with Fulbright applicants for the last more than 10 years. I worked with 500 or so of them. Rochelle herself is a Fulbright recipient, so we're going to use the knowledge that we have and try and help you out in reaching your dreams of pursuing a Fulbright as well. So just a brief outline of the session. We're going to give kind of an overview of the Fulbright program. Then we're going to let you know kind of who they're looking for, the different types of opportunities that are available under Fulbright. And then finally we're going to leave you with, okay, how do I actually apply for this wonderful opportunity? And give you kind of some nuts and bolts, and there'll be time for questions at the end. Certainly if you have questions throughout, that's fine as well.
All right, and just to let you know, you probably already know this because we sent a lot of announcements, and this is probably how you learned about the webinar today. But we have expanded our Fulbright programming into a campus-wide week-long event. We're actually on the last day of Fulbright week today, so we're really glad you were able to join us for one of our events. And we really want to use this week to celebrate the University of Illinois Fulbright tradition. We've been a great top producer of Fulbrighters, so all of you who are considering applying for the Fulbright, you should know that there's a strong legacy with this University of Illinois students getting the Fulbright, so you're in good company. And we have a lot of events dedicated to making sure that applicants are confident going into their applications. And so consider this the beginning of a conversation with us. Please follow up, make one-on-one appointments with us, and we'll really help you through every part of this process. All right, so we wanted to just take a moment to get to know the people that we're talking to. If you could, just in the chat box, let us know where you're joining us from today. All right, Chicago, yay! Awesome.
So we know to say good morning because we weren't sure, where in the world you are.
Right. Yeah, we knew that we might also get some students who are studying abroad at the moment. So, but yes. And Chile, very cool. Okay. So welcome from Chile. Thanks for joining us this morning.
All right. Some basics about the Fulbright program. This is a U.S. government-funded award. They provide $240 million worth of grants. You see 2,000 grants each year. This is no strings attached. Basically, university students, recent alumni, they leave with no money in their pocket. They come home with no money in their pocket. They get a year of experience out of this. It's kind of a self-designed study abroad. You could think of it that way. It's basically if you choose, if I could go anywhere in the world and spend 9 months, where would I go and what would I do? And generally speaking, Fulbright's going to have some opportunities for you to do that. Some countries require language study, a previous language study, and some have no language requirements at all. So Fulbright's actually 140 different programs. Every country has their own individual program, but they're all under the Fulbright rubric. Rochelle mentioned you have ties to University of Illinois. University of Illinois students have done great. We've actually been a top producer of Fulbright recipients each of the last 6 years, and we're looking forward to making that 7, 8, 9, and 10. So glad that you're going to help us out with that. The awards are for graduating seniors and alumni just as much as they are for master's and doctoral students. I know some people have an impression that, oh, I have to be in a PhD program to get a Fulbright. Absolutely not. You see the statistic we have up here. Half of the grants are for those students who are recent alumni or only have bachelor's degrees. So yeah, it really is a student program run for lots of different people. Some other pieces of information that we thought would be useful for you to know about Fulbright. Grants are generally for people who have not spent a lot of time in the country they're going to. Certainly you studied abroad for a semester, or you had some military service. They don't count that against you. There's no problem with that. And this is also kind of a country-by-country specific thing. We had a recipient for Fulbright to Korea who had actually lived 13 years in Korea, but it was when he was younger and everything. He said, oh, times have changed in the last 7 years, and you know, I don't know everything about this country I'm going to, because they want this to be an exchange. They want it to be a learning experience for you, and not just go to the place where you already know everything about. So certainly, when you're crafting your application materials, there should be some questions that you still have and things that you want to learn about the country. And if you feel like, oh, have I spent too much time in this country or not, that'd be something we'd be happy to talk with you about in the individual appointment as well. Grant benefits, as you can see, pretty much everything is all taken care of for you there. Odds of receiving a Fulbright, you know, wonderful grant, a high-profile name, all these great benefits. You get to spend a year overseas. The odds depend on the country where you're going to. So let's take a look at the Fulbright, actually a very open program. They're going to provide a lot of information to help you make kind of some of the choices that as far as where you'd like to apply to. So some countries, 5% of the applicants get Fulbrights, other ones 50% of the applicants. So yeah, we click up on the statistics. Let's see, we have somebody's coming in from Chile. Let's take a look at study research grant application award statistics. Let's find out how Chile is. Western Hemisphere. Yeah. Chile, all right. 13 out of 46 applicants last year received the Fulbright to Chile. That's not so bad for a Fulbright $40,000 grant. Certainly not atrocious. So every country, every region, they have these split out. There's some English teaching assistant grants. There's separate charts for those students. You can check by continent as far as what countries are you interested in. There's the English as a teaching assistantship. Sure, Asia Pacific, that's a great place to look. Wow, look at that. You're interested in going to Malaysia. Half the applicants to Malaysia are going to receive Fulbright grants. So again, that statistics are something that are important to look at, but certainly you don't want to make a decision just based on statistics. I mean, there needs to be a reason. One, you need to want to go to the country you're going to, and secondly, you need to have some good reasons about how that might fit in with your future career opportunities and things like that. But if it comes down to like, well, there's 3 or 4 different countries I could go to, one of them has 5% odds and one of them has 60% odds, at that point, maybe the place that has 60% odds might provide a better option for you. All right, so I oftentimes get students about, I get questions about GPAs and academic credentials. I mean, academics is a part of the award. Most of our recipients have between a 3.5 and a 4.0 GPA. There's no GPA cutoff at all. We've had students with a 3.0 GPA applying and receiving Fulbright grants. That also kind of depends on the country and the competitiveness and the type of grant that you're going to. So there's a lot of things that go into play beyond GPA, but I know students have questions about that metric in particular. And we're applying right now, application cycle. You're talking to us. We're talking about Fulbright grants that would start in the fall of 2017, or actually some of them, like a Latin America Fulbright, might start in the spring of 2018. So this is the cycle that we're on now, talking about deadlines and stuff for that for a year or a year and a half out.
All right, so let's pick up on what David was just saying about, GPAs and the different things that Fulbright is looking for. Of course, as he just noted, your academic record is a part of what they look at. So you do, submit transcripts from all the different colleges and universities that you've attended as a student of higher education. And they will look for, the strength of your transcript, but also that you have the academic or professional qualifications in relation to your proposal. And that means different things for different types of grants and the different types of proposals that you might write for them. So for example, if you're proposing to do biology research in a lab, they will look, for one thing, that you have maybe done reasonably well in biology courses that are relevant to the sort of research you're doing. But they'll also be looking to see that you maybe already have some lab research experience using some of the methods, materials, and data that you propose to be using in your Fulbright project. Similarly, if you're doing maybe some qualitative field work based on interviews or focus groups or survey methods, they'll be looking to see that you have some things in your past that you can point to as the right experience and qualifications to be doing that kind of research work. You may also already know that there are English teaching assistant grants. We just looked at some statistics for those. And so with those, it differs from country to country. Some countries prefer to get applicants who are coming from English or education or applied linguistics backgrounds, maybe students who have some coursework in teaching English as a second language. Some countries prefer that you actually have some real classroom experience already. Other countries are much more flexible. They want students who are outgoing and able to, build a good rapport with students and fellow teachers. They may consider a wide range of experiences that could be construed, loosely as teaching or tutoring or mentoring. So suffice it to say, you want to look carefully at the country profile before you really think through whether or not you have the right qualifications for the Fulbright. Another thing they look at is project feasibility. And this applies, of course, much more to the research side than it does to the English teaching side. But, feasibility is a very important thing when you're proposing to do work in a foreign country. And so, some facets of feasibility in the context of Fulbright would include things like, have you proposed a project that could realistically be completed within 9 or 10 months? These grants are generally all for an academic year, and so you want to make sure you haven't proposed something where it would take you, 3 years to have results that you could draw conclusions from. Also, will you have, access to the people and materials and facilities that you would need to do your project? Is your project too maybe politically or culturally sensitive to pull off in the country that you're looking at? So those are some of the things that go into project feasibility. Language qualifications is another big one, often one of the more vexing aspects of Fulbright for students, because the country profiles all have recommendations or sometimes requirements that they give for applicants with the host country language. And you'll see that they could range anywhere from no requirements at all, maybe in a country like Norway or Sweden or South Africa, to maybe they strongly recommend or even require some advanced proficiency in the host country language. And there you also want to think about not just what is the bare minimum that the host country is looking for, but also what does your project require? So you could be going to Sweden, where it's highly English proficient and they don't really require a whole lot in the way of language proficiency for the Fulbright. But what if you're proposing interview-based research out in very rural places where people may be less likely to speak English to you? And then you might actually need more than what the host country is saying they require, excuse me, at a minimum. Maturity, motivation, and adaptability are some other things. So when you're proposing to go and pull off some challenging research or maybe classroom teaching in a society and a culture that are, not your own or very different from your own, Fulbright wants to make sure that you have the ability to get there, be adaptable, maybe weather some challenges, and stay motivated throughout that 9 or 10 month grant period. And you'll demonstrate that in your own materials, of course, with your personal statement and your statement of grant purpose. But also your letters of recommendation should help you in demonstrating those things to the selection committee. Knowledge of the host country is also important. This gets demonstrated, of course, in your application materials and the ways that you're writing about your plans for that particular country. Also, there's an interview as part of the application process that we conduct here on campus with each applicant applying through the University of Illinois. And that goes for alumni as well. We can conduct these interviews via Skype if need be, but every applicant will be interviewed. And so you'll also maybe be sitting at the table with people who are quite knowledgeable about your proposed host country, and they'll want to make sure that you've kept up with current events and trends, certainly as they pertain to your project, and maybe in ways that go beyond your specific area of interest in the country. Ambassadorial potential is this important quality. Fulbright at its heart is an ambassadorial program. It's all about, exchange and sending great, bright, motivated young Americans to all of these different countries around the world to form great relationships, make friends and colleagues, have an impact on your host community, and hopefully form connections that will last throughout your career in one way or another. So they'll be looking for a sense that you bring that sort of ambassadorial potential and will be a great representative of the U.S. in your host country. And then finally, a strong fit between what your host country desires and what you offer. So in a sense, that does go back a bit to the academic or professional qualifications, but it's a little more detailed than that too. You may find when you start to look at country profiles that they really give preference to applicants at a certain level. You know, some of the countries for English teaching assistantships would prefer to have applicants with less teaching experience rather than more. Others may prefer candidates who are coming in maybe more at the master's level rather than the bachelor's level. When it comes to research, you may see some countries who are really sort of demonstrating some preference for applicants in certain fields like the STEM fields or business. They may have some specialty awards that privilege those fields as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But in sum, your whole profile counts. They're looking at your academic record, yes, but they'll also be looking at the things you've done outside of the classroom, research, maybe any performances or publications you have, extracurricular activities, leadership is a big one, and community involvement. So all of these things come together to really let Fulbright know whether you have those different sorts of qualifications that they really want in their scholars. All right, and so I've already been alluding to the different grant types that you have to choose from under Fulbright. There's a lot of variety. Fulbright is sort of a big umbrella for a lot of different kinds of things you could be doing overseas. The grant types, though, basically fall into two broad categories. The first one is what they call study or research grants, and that encompasses university coursework, all manners of research. And so you could be proposing to do library or archival research, maybe engaging with important documents or artifacts in the host country that can only be found there. You know, in the different arts categories, applicants often propose to go to their host country and actually study and work closely with a prominent musician or artist of some sort in their field. You may propose to do social sciences fieldwork, so things that are more ethnographic in nature, based on interviews, observations, focus groups, maybe some survey research. And of course, also the sorts of lab work and fieldwork that are prominent in the life sciences and physical sciences. So, you know, every year there are successful Fulbright applicants who are proposing research in all of those different categories. And so you want to just think about, what does research mean in your field? What does research look like in your field? They're not looking for a cookie-cutter research proposal, but they're looking for something that makes sense for your field and for your professional aspirations. In the study and research grants, you might also pursue a combination of coursework and research. In some countries, you could pursue an entire master's degree. Not all of the countries allow that, but many do. Some countries will actually require that you do some coursework alongside your research, and China is a good example of that. If you're applying at the bachelor's level, they want you to take courses at a local university as well as conducting your independent research. And then you have a number of specialty awards, and so this is where I'll bring in the University of Illinois Fulbright page that we maintain here in the Top Scholars Program. So now you should be looking at the National and International Scholarships Program website. Just let us know in the chat box if you're not seeing that. But I'll show you how to navigate to our administered scholarships. You scroll down, you get to the post-grad opportunities. There's Fulbright. And then right at the top of our Fulbright page, you can click on this hyperlink discipline specific. And that will take you to a list that we maintain of all of the different Fulbright specialty awards. So we update this every year. They change a little bit from year to year. You can see that we have it broken down by categories. Oh, sorry about that. A little hiccup there. Okay, so you can see that we have this broken down by categories such as business and economics, environment. It's actually quite a long document. You know, you can see public health and research, STEM-specific awards, cultural studies, all the way down to the final category, which is master's degree or doctoral study, and some are for specific disciplines. You'll see many partnership awards for the United Kingdom, and so you may be able to get the award to use at that particular university in the UK, and pursue any sort of master's degree, or the first year of a PhD may also be funded with these awards. So we want to make clear these specialty awards are there. You can look through them and see if any of them match up with your interests and goals. You can see some that we've marked as undersubscribed, meaning the host country would like to get even more good applicants for these awards. They're not getting as many applicants as they would like. But these are not your only options, of course. If you're interested in, say, fine, applied, and performing arts, these are just some things that you can choose from that may be specific to your, so let's say you're a musician and you're very interested in studying music in Hungary, they have a new award just for that. However, if you don't see anything here that fits the bill for you, you have the regular open study research grants for all of the different host countries that you can also choose from. All right, and then the other broad grant type is the English teaching assistantship. So you are fully funded to spend an academic year in your host country teaching English. Typically your teaching assignment will take about 20 hours a week, and so many of the host countries either explicitly or implicitly encourage their applicants to envision some side projects that they can also do when they're not in the classroom, and we'll give you some great Illinois examples of those. All right, so we're going to do a quick poll and get a sense of maybe where you stand in terms of your interest in certain grant types. So if you go up to the Tools tab and click on it, you'll see an option for polling. So I'm going to bring up a poll where you can respond A through E for the sort of grant experience that interests you. So if you would like to do that now and let us know what kind of grant you're thinking about, that'll be cool. Okay, some graduate study, creative and performing arts, fantastic. If you're having trouble with the polling, you can also, type in the question box. Okay, graduate study or creative and performing arts. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing with us. That gives us a good sense of the kinds of examples that will be relevant to you. Okay, and perhaps independent research. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for participating in that.
And good news, we have University of Illinois recipients in all those categories.
Right.
Let's talk about a few of some recent Illinois grantees. Rosalie, you see she did a research grant. She was a graduating senior from Illinois, actually transferred into Illinois. Her first time ever on an airplane was flying to Nepal for her Fulbright project. So where do Fulbrighters come from? What are their backgrounds? Have they all traveled the world all over before? Certainly not. Samuel Arrow Phillips, he was a master's candidate. He applied as a master's student. He was interested in doing some construction, collecting rainwater runoff for a community center in Nigeria. So that's what his Fulbright project is. Michelle Asbill, currently in our Fulbright program right now, comes from social work. And you can see Michelle has what might be considered kind of a controversial topic. That's something to look at and to consider when you're applying for a Fulbright. She had to be careful as far as how she was phrasing, what she was going in to do, because Fulbright, the final people who make the decisions are people from the country where your host country where you're going to. So you need to make sure that you're writing about things in a positive way, even if it's, so Michelle, of course, would be writing about how to prevent this from happening and good things that Bulgaria can be doing, and let's assess this, rather than saying, I'm going to go in and expose to the world this terrible thing that's happening. Right? There's different ways to frame things. That's also something that we're going to be happy to help you out with. Brandon Doshi, so we saw there was somebody interested in creative performing arts. Brandon applied as an alumni. He applied a year after graduation. He's interested in fusing Brazilian music and American jazz, and that's meant to be helpful in his future composition and performance experiences. So here's an example of alumni. We work with alumni just like we do with any current students, and so we're happy to work with Brandon on his application.
All right, there we go. Okay, a couple more examples in the study and research category. A graduating senior named Sally Feng a few years ago applied for a Fulbright. She was coming from the field of integrative biology and proposed a really cool project looking at methods of coral reef restoration in the Philippines. And I think, if I recall correctly, didn't quite have exactly that sort of research experience, but was able to work with her faculty mentors and some of her other mentors on campus to put together a really nice proposal for that. And it was certainly a topic strongly valued by the Philippines, and so she was successful in getting the grant to go and do that. And actually blogged about it for the integrative biology department, and so you may be able to find her great blog posts on her Fulbright experience.
Yeah, so Sally's a good example of, a lot of students don't come in saying, oh, I'm going to apply for a Fulbright and I'm going to do exactly this. And she's like, I'm interested in going overseas, I'm interested in research, and I don't necessarily know what I want to do. And she started a search, and through the Fulbright process came up with this project, actually in working with an affiliate overseas. We'll talk about those affiliations. Her project kind of changed and morphed throughout the process of applying based on her conversations with the people in the Philippines who she's going to be working with. Sometimes the Fulbright project is 70% of students and 30% the advisor overseas, and sometimes it's 30% the students and 70% the advisor overseas, and that all fluctuates depending on you and what you're interested in and who you're going to be working with. So yeah, it's not always like, oh, everybody doesn't have this great idea. So if you haven't got your great idea yet, that's fine. There's been a lot of students in that boat already.
Right. We've got also an example from political science, Valerie Brankovich, who is currently in China doing her project, and so she's doing that combination of coursework and independent research. And she's in the region of Xi'an, China, looking at the effects of economic development on gender roles within households. And so really great innovative project there. Anna Martin-Riles is currently in Barcelona doing a civil and environmental engineering project looking at methods of wastewater treatment in Spain. And Terrell Starr is someone who was in a combination of journalism and also Russian and East European studies, and went and did a really cool project in the Ukraine looking at attitudes toward interracial marriages and also media treatment of interracial marriages in Ukraine. Since coming back from his Fulbright, he's had a really successful journalism career. You can find his writing on his experience in Ukraine and many other issues in really high-profile outlets. And so Fulbright was a great launch pad for him to get some incredible international experience, learn about some global issues, and then come back and really parlay that into a great career having a voice, really, in political and cultural commentary. You may see down in the chat box, I sent all of you a link for a wonderful blog piece that Rosalie Ierardi, we'll go back to the slide for a moment, our animal sciences Fulbrighter who went to Nepal. She did a great piece for us on her Fulbright experience and where she is now. So you're all welcome to take a look at that if you're interested. Okay, and we'll, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about some English teaching assistantships. So these grants, these are for students who might find use in teaching English. A lot of our students I don't believe any of these, one of these three students was actually an education major. The rest were not education. Liz Phillips, she was interested in going to South Korea. She's very interested in non-proliferation research. She used her experience in South Korea. South Korea actually extended her grant, so she was able to stay for a couple of years. It's something interesting only South Korea does. So she was able to spend 2 years there, and she parlayed that experience into applying for and obtaining a Scoville Peace Scholarship. She's currently in Washington, D.C., working on nuclear research for an agency in D.C. So her Fulbright really launched her career into what she's interested in ultimately doing. A good example of that. Matt Moynihan of Fulbright English teaching assistant to Indonesia. You see he was an MCB major. He's pre-med. He's interested in becoming a doctor. But he doesn't want to just be a doctor. After he gets his medical degree, he's interested in doing like Doctors Without Borders and doing a lot of public health outreach. He plans on going back and forth to Indonesia throughout his career once he actually comes back and gets his medical degree. And so the Indonesian English teaching assistantship experience fit in with those long-term plans. Again, even though he's doing nothing with teaching, but they're heading him off in the direction that he wants his career to go.
All right. Jacqueline Alexander was an ETA in Turkey. So she's an example of someone who was coming from a background in elementary education. So, you know, that certainly can be an asset when you're applying for the ETA, but as we said, it's by no means a must for many of the countries that you might be looking at. She had a side project of both learning the Turkish language and pursuing some dance classes while she was there. So that gives you an idea of how your different hobbies and interests can also, you know, be the backbone of your host community engagement outside of your research or classroom time.
Yeah, Jackie actually applied for Fulbright 2 different years. She applied actually for a different country 1 year, did not receive the grant, and then reapplied and received the grant a second time. So Fulbright's not a one-shot only, I can only apply once. We've had multiple students who apply and win on their second go-around.
And then Tara McGovern, who was recently a Fulbright ETA in Ecuador, you can see how, you know, she was, that's a really nice picture of her with one of her co-teachers, so she had a great time in the classroom with her students and colleagues. But you can also see how, coming from an anthropology background, she was able to pursue a side project that really made use of, you know, the kinds of research that she learned about as an anthropology student. So she did some ethnographic work looking at the impacts of ecotourism in Ecuador. All right, so this time we'll do one more quick poll just to get a sense of where you're thinking about going to. So let's try a yes/no one. Do you know what country or region you're currently interested in? And if you'd like to let us know what that country or region is, you can do it in the chat box there. Okay, Netherlands is a great one. And we've had some students actually successfully get the Fulbright grant to the Netherlands, I think for both research and graduate study.
Oh, Germany? Germany has one of the largest Fulbright programs, largest number of grants available. You're interested in Germany, great. We've opened your eyes to other opportunities. That's fantastic as well.
All right. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we can help you if you're sort of stuck between a couple of possible countries or parts of the world. There are many great ways to sort of narrow your choices down and really figure out the best fit for you. And that's a big part of what we do with students as they're getting ready to apply for the Fulbright. Okay, so we've got some additional tips that we'd like to leave you with. So even though we've been working with Fulbright for a while, David's been working with Fulbright for a good long while, and we've built up some great expertise about the Fulbright program, the way it works in different parts of the world. We still don't know everything, of course, and we still get questions from students that are a little too deep or detailed, and they stump us. And so it's good to know that you also have support at the Fulbright headquarters itself. So I'm going to show you, we'll go back to the Fulbright website for a moment here. To grab this. I'm having trouble with my, there we go. And we'll show you how to find the regional specialists that Fulbright has on staff for each part of the world. So if you go to, we'll try Europe and Eurasia, since we have a few people interested in that. Certainly, always feel free to come to us with any questions you have, and if we're not able to help you, we'll probably direct you over this way. So you can see, since, as David just mentioned, Germany has such a huge Fulbright program, lots of grants they give out for both research and English teaching. They have Kara Doble dedicated just to programs in Germany. And then for the rest of Eurasia, you've got either Marla Mazer or Alyssa Young. And so you can see that their phone numbers and email addresses are provided for each of them, and that's true of every Fulbright world region. And they're very happy to hear from you. They're happy to hear from students. You're not pestering them or bothering them. If you'd like to make sure that it is something that we can help you with first, certainly come to us with your questions, and then we may direct you over to some of these great folks at Fulbright if we need to. There's also the Graduate College Office of External Fellowships. So if you're a current Illinois graduate student, which I think maybe no one participating in the webinar right now is, but if you do at any time apply for the Fulbright as a current University of Illinois graduate student, you'll get all kinds of great application support from the Graduate College Office of External Fellowships, and you see their contact info there in case it's relevant to you.
All right, so hopefully this sounds interesting to you. The thing we most want to leave you with is that we're here to help, right? We are a resource for you. We want to do everything we can to help make your dream of pursuing the Fulbright happen. So to set up a Skype or phone appointment with us, we are happy to talk with you individually about what your plans are, what you think your plans might be, or sorting out what countries might be a good place to go. Any of those conversations, from that down to reading 7 drafts of your personal statement and 9 drafts of your proposal. That's what we're interested in helping you out with. We also have some additional tips for you. Send us an email at topscholars@illinois.edu. For those interested in pursuing research grants, we have some tips on how to obtain this letter of affiliation, the letter from the overseas sponsor. We also have some tips for those interested in English teaching assistantship, as far as like how to craft your personal statement and your proposal and what things go in each essay for that. So send us an email and we'll be able to forward some of those documents on for you. Create a rough sketch of your proposal, chat with us, request letters of recommendation. Let's take a look at some letter of recommendation advice and feedback that we've got for you. So we work with you. We also are happy to work with your letter of recommendation writers, and we want to help you work with your letter of recommendation writers as well. So on our Fulbright site here, you can see letters of recommendation. Let's take a look at tips for referees.
Okay, so this will be for the research grants?
Yeah, so what we've got here is a link that we hope that you actually share with the person who you're asking for a letter of recommendation for. Certainly everybody's written letters of recommendation for attending grad schools or getting jobs. They all haven't written a letter specifically for getting a Fulbright to do research. So here are tips and guidance for them. This is also useful for you. You should take a look at the things that we're asking of your recommendation writers, and that might help you sort out, okay, which 3 people are there who can best answer these questions and address these different topics for us. We've also got some similar information for English teaching grants. So somebody might be interested in English teaching. For the English teaching assistantship, your letter writers, they don't actually write a letter. Instead, they answer a series of questions. There's an online recommendation form. And so here you see our 1 through 6 questions. So the people who you might ask to write an English teaching assistantship evaluation might be different than the people you'd ask for who are writing a job, right? Does the applicant exhibit a penchant for teaching or mentoring? One of your 3 or a couple of your 3 people should be able to talk about that. I also want to stress the teaching or mentoring, again, that you don't need to have like classroom teaching experience. We had a Fulbright recipient who on ETA, an English teaching assistant. His big coaching mentoring thing was he served as a hockey coach, right? When he talked about lessons that he learned there that are going to be applicable to helping students get jazzed up about learning English in a foreign country. So you can use this as far as picking letter of recommendation writers, and then also use this resource to share with them to help them write better letters of recommendation for yourself. You'll need to order your transcripts. Let's talk about this. Let's leave it here. Let's talk about our priority deadline. We've got up here July 1st. So the different pieces of the application, a little scholarship waiver says that you haven't committed any felonies, or if you have, you've made up for them, stuff like that. Don't worry too much about that. Then we ask for a complete Fulbright application. You can submit that online to us. So it's the real-life Fulbright application. There's a submit button that says, it's kind of scary. Are you sure that you want to submit this? You won't be able to look at it again. We have a top secret unsubmit button. We can send it right back to you. then you can make changes. You can send it back to us. We can work back and forth with you. The main gist of the application, there's a couple essays for those pursuing a research grant. It is a 2-page proposal, so what am I going to do, how am I going to spend my time in this country, and a 1-page personal statement. For those interested in the English teaching assistantship option, it's a 1-page, here's how I plan on being a good teacher in your country, and then a 1-page personal statement. We also, we talked about the letters of recommendation, your transcripts, you need all your transcripts from everywhere. So what we're going to do is you're going to send us all this information on July 1st, and we're going to send it out to a faculty committee, and we'll set up 15, 20 different committees depending on our applicant pool. And these committee members are going to have expertise in the area or region of the world you're going to, and there's probably also going to be somebody who knows something about your discipline or a group of your disciplines. So you submit your materials to us on July 1st, and this is meant strictly to help you out. You're going to get 2, 3, or 4 actually pieces of feedback on your written material, and then we're going to sit down and have a conversation with you again over Skype or phone, or if you happen to be in the area, fine, and in person. And this is meant to help you out so that then over the course of the rest of the summer, you can be compiling and crafting an even better application. And frankly, you're interested in the webinar right now, you're gung-ho about the Fulbright, and if you want to start writing stuff this weekend and you have something to us next week, right, we will take a look at it and we'll give you feedback on that, and we can do a couple rounds before July 1st, and then when you submit something on July 1st and it goes to these external reviewers, you have something even better that they're looking at. I understand the summer sometimes get away from people like, oh man, I wanted to make it July 1st, now it's July 15th, what should I do? At that point, send it to us anyway. We're happy to take a look at it. We're just not going to be able to farm it out to other reviewers on campus, but either Rochelle or myself will take a look and give you feedback. And again, we'll continue with that feedback cycle throughout the rest of the summer. Regardless of whether you submit something on July 1st, the real deadline is September 1st. So the real deadline, you again submit your application online. Here we're going to need those letters of affiliation from that overseas person if you're interested in doing a research grant. We're going to need foreign language evaluations. That's done by a foreign language instructor for, this again depends on the country you're going to. We saw somebody who was interested in creative performing arts. There is a very important piece in this. They have this very specific on the Fulbright site as far as like if you are a singer, you need to have one aria and one whatever, and if you're a musician, you need to have one something by Bach and something by whatever, and then they've got this all classified. The review process for an artist, we'll take just a second to talk about this, is a little different than other applicants. So all the arts candidates, you put together this supplementary material, your portfolio basically, and then it can be reviewed by an artist in that field. And they're going to listen to the harpsichord, some harpsichord professionals are going to listen to all the harpsichord applicants, and they're going to say, okay, here are the best sounding ones. Maybe I'll take a look at their application. All right, and then if they like the whole thing, then it's going to go on to the country and be put into the rest of the pool. For all the other applicants, your application goes to a panel that will be looking at just all the applicants for that country, except for the arts candidates. That'll be done in the United States, and those materials, they will say, let's say they're somebody interested in the Netherlands. I'm making up numbers right now, but say they get 60 proposals for the Netherlands. They're going to look at those and they're going to say, okay, here are the top 30 ones, and they're going to send those over to the Netherlands. The Netherlands will look at those 30 and say, okay, here are the 15 students who we're going to give the grants to, and here's 7 alternates, and the rest of you, sorry, you didn't get the Fulbright, right? So you got to satisfy people at a couple different levels. So September 1st, you submit your application. We're going to conduct an on-campus interview. It can be via Skype or phone. If you're not around, that's fine. We do that all the time. And so our Fulbright committee, we're charged with interviewing all of our applicants and then writing an additional assessment as far as what we think of you as a candidate. Perfect. Yeah, as far as what we're assessing you on, you're all looking at this, there's this click here to obtain an idea of the types of questions your application should address. Again, we're not all about secrets. What is the committee assessing you on? It's assessing you on these exact categories right here. So our tip to you is when you're putting together your proposal, and your personal statement, you've written your application, I encourage you to go back at the end of that draft, take a look at some of these questions, and if a question's like, well, wait a minute, there's no way that they're going to know that about me, maybe that's something that you need to put in your application somewhere, right? So this committee, we got this twofold purpose. We're gonna provide an evaluation that then gets attached to your application and is sent for these national committees. But of course, also as a University of Illinois student or alumni, we want you to do well, right? So we're going to have any additional feedback, advice. We see something we think you might want to fix. You might have a week or so to take care of that before you officially submit it for that national review. So that national review will need those resubmittals. We can go back to the home page. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out quickly, some of these questions are things that you really want to be thinking about from the very beginning of your Fulbright planning stages. You know, for example, if you look under validity and feasibility of the proposed project, these first couple can be a little tough sometimes for students to address in their proposals. You know, does the candidate need to go overseas to do this, or could it be equally well done in the U.S.? Why this particular host country? Could the project be undertaken equally well in another country? So if you sort of have in your mind from the very beginning that those are the kinds of things you'll have to justify and be able to defend in your proposal, those are some very important questions that can help you, again, with the early planning stages, narrowing down choice of country, and thinking about what it is you actually really want to do with your Fulbright.
Great.
Okay, so back to our page here.
Yeah, and then so you're going to officially the second time submit your application on October 6th. Back to our office, we'll attach our assessment. It goes off to that U.S. panel of reviewers. It gets sent. Then you find out in the middle of January, am I a finalist? Is my application being sent on to the final country? So they let everyone know, yes or no. Are you still in the competition? And then the individual countries make their announcements as far as, did you receive the Fulbright or not? And that happens usually between March and May. We've got all of our applicants this year. I've actually heard everything except for one. You know, China hasn't decided yet which finalists in their pool are getting the grant yet. So we're eagerly hearing from that student. So it really is a year-long process. You're talking to us now. A year from now, you might be sitting in your chair saying, "Oh, maybe I get a good news email today," right? That's where we're at. We also have some additional tips as far as applying for the Fulbright. At the bottom of our site, and then of course we make you read through the whole entire site. So then we got a nice link to the Fulbright site itself, which you've all taken a look at already as well.
And one more thing that we should point out on the Fulbright site is, put this link in here for you. If you're interested in what recent grantees have done in the host country that you're considering, back up here where we showed you the link to the different statistics. You can look at the grantee directory. Give it a moment to go to that. It's being a little sluggish. Okay, it's not cooperating, I apologize. But what you can do is go to that directory and actually search by the name of a person. Ah, here we go. If you actually know the name of someone who was a past Fulbrighter in a country that you're interested in, you could look them up in this directory by their name. You can also look up by the institution in the U.S. that someone applied through. State, field of study, country. So we have someone with us from Chile right now. Let's take a quick look. So you just highlight the country, hit search, and you can see they're going back as far as the 1960s in this directory. So it's a long, long history of Fulbright scholars in this particular country. You can sort by year. Here we've got 2015 up first, so the current cohort of Fulbrighters in Chile. And you can see all the different fields of study that they're in: ecology, creative writing. Let's see. In some countries, you'll see a whole bunch of English teaching assistants as well. So let's take a look at the ecology ones really quickly. Let's look at Mara here. If you click on her name, you can see a quick summary of her proposal. So marine microbial communities. So you can even get a sense of the kinds of topics that these folks have been looking at in the Fulbright country that you're interested in. So another really great resource from the Fulbright website there. All right, I think we're through with our next steps. So now we've got some time left. Please go ahead and type in any questions you have for us in the chat box, and we'll be able to respond to you while we're all still on the line here. And while we're waiting for those to come through, you have all of the different ways to contact us and keep up with the different kinds of news that we put out on social media. So feel free to call, send us an email, and also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We keep students abreast of different deadlines and events coming up and through our social media platforms as well. Okay, here's a question. If you're applying for a grad program, at what point in the process should you apply to the university? Excellent question.
Yeah, so you should apply by the deadline for the grad program you're going into. Especially if you're looking at something that's a taught master's degree, those applications are probably going to be after the Fulbright. So you apply for the Fulbright first, and then you just meet the deadline to apply to that university. If you're interested in doing a degree by research or where you're going to have an advisor, you do the same thing. You want to make sure you meet that deadline. But there it's also more important even that you contact that individual at the university where you're going to be studying. Make sure you might want to get actually a letter of affiliation for them, even though they can't say you're not actually applying, but getting a letter from them saying, if you get accepted to the university, I'm interested in working with you. That will be important. So that's something you want to work on right away. In either case, it makes sense to contact admissions professionals from those host institutions to find out more information from them. Just like if you're applying to a program in the U.S., we wouldn't want you to just base all of your decisions based on what you read on a website. So contact them, ask them questions about the program, and you're also going to have more fodder to put into your Fulbright application as far as why that institution in that country happens to be a great place for you to go and the perfect fit and how that fits with the Fulbright program. So yeah, thank you for the question.
And you'll see in the country profiles for many of the Fulbright countries, they will have specific language addressing this issue, such as you're not expected to have a letter of admission from the university at the time that you apply to the Fulbright, but when they're making their final grantee decisions, they may look to you at that point to provide them with some documentation that you've been accepted into the grad program that you're interested in. If you're looking at some partnership awards, such as those that we showed you on the discipline-specific list that we have, some of those United Kingdom awards where it's for a specific university, often with those, when they've chosen you as a Fulbright grantee for that specialty award, they're arranging your admission into that program, and so there may be many instances where you don't have to apply to the university as well as the Fulbright. But certainly in the case of many countries, you do have to apply to both.
We got a question from Hugh wondering if he can be put in touch with any Illinois Fulbright grantees. This is certainly something that a lot of our grantees have said that they're willing to do. Hugh, if you want to send us an email, maybe let us know the country or country of interest and type of grant, then we'll check to see if there are some alumni. We'll reach out to the alumni to reach out to you and see if they're available to have a conversation with you about their experience.
You'll find that past Fulbrighters are often really willing and enthusiastic about talking about their experience with people who are considering the grant. Fulbright also officially selects ambassadors each year, and so, if we're having trouble finding a U of I alum who's done, the sort of grant that you're hoping to do in a country or similar country that you're hoping to go to, there may be an official Fulbright ambassador who's also able to talk to you, so we can help you find those as well if need be. Other questions? Anything at all that you might be wondering about? Is there a typical voice or tone that applications have? That's an excellent question, too. So, you know, basically your statement of grant purpose, you have those two basic essays that David mentioned earlier that go into the Fulbright application. You have a statement of grant purpose, otherwise known as the proposal, and then you have the personal statement. The statement of grant purpose tends to be, I would say, a little bit more all business, you know, in the sense that you're really trying to convey the professional and academic or artistic qualifications to do the project or English teaching that you're proposing to do. And so those tend to have a very formal sort of, you know, maybe research proposal tone. If you're putting together a statement of grant purpose to do graduate work in the country that you're going to, it will almost take the form of a graduate admissions essay where you're really explaining why that program in that country is such a great fit for you. And of course, with the English teaching assistantship, you would be doing a proposal where you're really explaining, here's why I would be a great teacher of English and great ambassador in your country. The personal statement can actually be a little more freewheeling. It can, you know, students have gotten somewhat creative with that. It can be a little more, I would say, effusive sometimes in the language that it uses. They really want to get to know you through that essay, and so it's a chance to show your personality and your particular style. David, what would you add to that?
Yeah, you're a serious scholar and you're friendly, so you should take a serious tone and a friendly. I mean, you're an open person, so open, engaging. You want to keep out anything that would be defensive, anything looking down on the country, anything that I'm going to go in and save, you know, any sort of I'm going to save or address this terrible. I'm going to fix this terrible problem that your country has. Those would be things that you wouldn't, the tone that you would not want to have in your statement. Those are all things that we're looking for when we are reviewing your drafts also. So that's why, you know, hopefully that gives you some sense, but we'll be able to give you even more guidance once you submit information to us.
Absolutely. You have many backstops through the campus process to help you sort of fix any language that might sound imperialistic or opportunistic or anything else that you're hoping to avoid in your proposal. So, and, you know, we often get feedback where we say, you know, I read your entire application, but I still feel like I haven't really gotten to know you very well. Can you add some more dimensions of yourself into this personal statement? So you'll get a lot of really good tailored feedback helping you strike just the right tone that you want to strike.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Very much, and please do stay in touch with us as you start to put your Fulbright plans together. Okay, signing off.